Director of Library Services Phil Hanna, you've joined us in Cafe on the Square in downtown Columbia for this episode of Lindsey Wilson Conversations. The way this works is you get to enjoy a beverage of your choice while talking about a topic of your choice, and the beverage you have chosen is ice water, and the topic you have chosen to speak about is the library. And you've also brought a prop with you, a facsimile of a page from the Gutenberg Bible, which was the first publication to be printed by the printing press. Phil, during the 2008 Christmas season, Amazon's Kindle, which is an electronic book, sold out and was on back order through February 2009. With the popularity of digital books, does that bode well for the future of the library?
I don't really think it's a threat to libraries. I know some librarians have been asked to purchase Kindles as experiments for their students to check out. I myself have considered buying one for the very reason that you can change the fonts, making it easier to read small fonts and in different lighting situations. I don't think it's a threat to it. I think it just simply increases their value and their worth to the public.
Discuss how the internet has affected the library.
Well, it's added greatly to its resources. It's not the answer-all. It doesn't replace the library. It doesn't substitute for the library, but it certainly makes things available. If, for example, our library were to suffer a major disaster, we could open up in temporary space with about 67,000 ebooks, 21,000 journals, all immediately accessible. We'd have to take a long time to recoup our other losses, but that's a great substitute for disasters that do happen to libraries. Google is digitizing millions of books, but in many cases these are copyright protected. You may see parts of them online. I can go to Google, I can type in the title of a book, and I can see a page here and there, but to get the whole thing, you have to go to the library. People like real physical books. Even Kindle is shaped like a real physical book, not a laptop. People like to hold books, they like to turn the pages, they like to close them, put them back to their bedside, and open them up the next day.
With the seeming ubiquitous nature of websites such as Wikipedia, what sort of impact has that had on student research on the college level?
I was listening to C-SPAN the other day, and there was a fellow who was talking about the digital generation. Born Digital was the title of the book he co-authored. And he talked about how when students start their research, they go immediately to Wikipedia. That's where they get their background. Some of them then go to the web to find more information. He was saying the most dedicated students compare a variety of sources, they use a variety of resources, they compare, they contrast, they sift through them. But Wikipedia is where a lot of people start. Studies have shown that it's fairly accurate. It is updated almost immediately. When I've looked for political news, when something is announced over the media, I go to Wikipedia and it's already been changed. That doesn't mean there aren't other resources, there are online encyclopedias, but Wikipedia, because the information is submitted by users, tends to be very up to date. So there are all kinds of ways in which the internet and libraries complement each other. I think each one enriches the other.
It was recently reported that Americans on average are reading more books now, not fewer books. Is that surprising in light of living in a digital age?
Not if you go to a Barnes Noble. For example, Elizabethtown had a Barnes Noble open 4 or 5 years ago. The traffic in there is tremendous. Bowling Green has a Barnes Noble, which it didn't have before. Barnes Nobles, in a way, have become the libraries of this next generation. They're user-friendly. They give you places to browse. You can get a cup of coffee, a dessert, a sandwich. I think the publishing industry is learning how to reach people by making user-friendly settings, and libraries have to find ways to respond by providing similar kinds of settings for people to come into. I think you can measure the advancement of societies by the presence of libraries. I suspect if you went to some place like Gaza, they're just probably few and far between. And that's just because there's not been an active library movement in those parts of the world, and because I think there is a fear of new ideas.
Yes.
as much as there is an embracing of learning, there is a fear of bringing in too many outside influences in. When I was preparing for this interview, I found something that said, you cannot legislate enlightenment. It was a reference to the Enlightenment that followed upon the development of the Gutenberg Press. You cannot legislate enlightenment, but you can set rules of the game to protect public interest. Libraries represent public good. They are not businesses, but they must cover their costs. They need a business plan. Think of the old motto of Con Edison when he had to tear up New York streets to get to the infrastructure. Dig we must. Libraries say, digitize we must, but not on any terms. We must do it in the interest of the public, and that means holding the digitizers responsible to the citizenry. And this is a replica, printed on a replica of the Gutenberg Press that was set up at the Louisville Public Library about 15 years ago. And this is the Gospel of John, which looks very much like the original printing would have looked like if you had a Gutenberg Bible dating from 500 years ago.
Director of Library Services Phil Hanna, thank you for joining us for Lindsey Wilson Conversations.
Thank you for having me here, Dwayne, and thank you, Travis.